So that's Father Coughlin, which I did go ahead and look up. He was based in Detroit. Anti-Semitic, anti-banking, pro-fascist. Once World War II started, Roosevelt actually had him taken off the air. Couldn't broadcast anymore. His broadcasts were considered sedition. And he stopped him publishing his newsletter as well. Father Coughlin died in 1979. And by the way, in terms of radio being put to evil use, the Germans, the Nazis, Hitler and his people used radio extensively in Germany to broadcast propaganda and lies to the German population about many, many matters. And they also broadcast into other countries. And so the medium being in the middle of two things. On one side, we have American population with Father Coughlin. On the other side, saying things that were not true to influence people. And same thing with Adolf Hitler and his people, with the German people, who's on the other side of the medium, people, and then the audience on the other side. And then here we have Franklin Roosevelt, you're looking at a picture of him, who won the presidential election in, I believe it was 1932, and did everything he could to bring the country back from a very bad place, the Great Depression, when something like 1 out of 4 people lost their jobs. There were bread lines, runs on banks where people would go and want to take all their money out of the bank, and then the bank would eventually close down. It was bad, really, really bad. And Roosevelt instituted a very strong federal government with a lot of governmental policies. He used the federal government as a tool to stem the Depression and turn the ship around and send it back in a better direction. And he did a lot of aggressive things like Social Security, like a bunch of government jobs, civilian corps, out building parks, buildings and roads and bridges and electrifying a lot of the South, etc. Anyway, what I want to remind you is that, remember President Lincoln had newspapers when he wanted to get the word out. He'd write a letter to maybe Horace Greeley in New York City. He was the editor of a paper here. And Greeley would publish Lincoln's letter, which was basically a message to the population. And then other newspapers would pick it up all over the country. And so the letter would basically get out. Take a while, but it would get out. Well, FDR didn't take a while. He could sit down and do what was called a fireside chat. Wasn't necessarily at a fireside himself, but he's thinking that the family they're gathered around that radio where they hear that pleasant programming, the comedies and the suspense and the music. And he got his own message out and was very, very, very effective with radio. And now we're going to, I'm going to stop.